Let's talk about Scott Adams. Ladies and gentlemen, we have this tweet from Scott Adams. He says, my publisher for non-Dilbert books has canceled my upcoming book and the entire backlist. Still no disagreement about my point of view. My book agent canceled me too. I'm not sure what he means by still no disagreement about his point of view. But here's the story, because there's a lot of people disagreeing with his point of view. This is from Hot Air, hundreds of newspapers canceled Dilbert comic strip, accuse Scott Adams of racism. There is some nuance to the conversation being had here that the media is overlooking in what Scott Adams said, albeit I disagree with what Scott Adams' prescription for the issue is. Rasmussen published this. Black Americans only. Quote, it's okay to be white. 53% agree. 26% disagree. 21% not sure. That's kind of a crazy, scary number. That 26% of black Americans think they disagree with the idea that it's okay to be white, and 21% aren't sure. That's kind of scary. Quote, black people can be racist too. 76% agree. 27% disagree. 8% not sure. So let me play for you what Scott Adams said, which resulted in his absolute cancellation. Dilbert's being canceled. His book is being canceled. He says his career is over. Here's what he said.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this.
This
can't be fixed. Right? This can't be fixed. You just have to escape. So that's what I did. I went to a neighborhood where, I have a very low black population. Because unfortunately, there's a high correlation between the density. And this is according to Don Lemon, by the way. So here I'm just quoting Don Lemon when he notes that when he lived in a mostly black neighborhood, there were a bunch of problems that he didn't see in white neighborhoods. So even Don Lemon sees a big difference in your own quality of living based on where you live and who's there. So I think it makes no sense whatsoever as a white citizen of America to try to help black citizens anymore. It doesn't make sense. It's no longer a rational impulse. And so I'm gonna back off from being helpful to black America because it doesn't seem like it pays off. Like I've been doing it all my life, and the only outcome is I get called a racist. That's the only outcome. It makes no sense to help black Americans if you're white. It's over. Don't even think it's worth trying. Totally not trying. And there we go. You didn't expect that today, did you?
So I don't get what his point is. I mean, first of all, he's very, very wrong. He makes the point about Don Lemon saying, even in these neighborhoods, I'm like, yeah, Don Lemon did say that. Don Lemon did this thing in 2013 where he was like, if you live in the black community, stop littering, start doing these things. And then I just brought up, like, I don't know about these other cities. I know that in Chicago, in Hyde Park, which has double the black population on than the country's average, it's actually very wealthy and very nice and has University of Chicago. And you walk around and everything is beautiful down there for the most part. And you go to other neighborhoods like where I grew up, and there's a bunch of scummy white trash white people with cars with no tires in the front of their house and trash like that. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me because I'm in the mix of it. I don't see that. I don't know what he's talking about. But now his book is canceled. His non-Dilbert books are canceled. His entire backlist. Here's what I think. When the left has psychotic racist opinions, nobody bats an eye, nobody gets canceled. The left can literally advocate for racial segregation, and they do, and they implement it all the time, and there's no repercussions. Mm-hmm. And then Scott Adams comes out and says he doesn't like this, so he's going to move, and he thinks other people should as well. And I'm like, I disagree with you, Scott Adams. I don't like stereotyping based on race. That doesn't solve the problem, and it doesn't actually get to the root of what is actually going on. Just because they polled this group of people doesn't actually answer any of the questions that we're trying to have answered. But that's fine. He's allowed to have his opinion. I'm just saying there's clearly leftist CRT-based racism, which is very, very similar in many ways. Well, I mean, it's literally just like old school white supremacy with a mask put on it, is totally acceptable and fine. I'm not Derek Bell, the critical race theorist who's pro-segregation, that's acceptable in these schools. Scott Adams, who says basically the same thing, but in a different way, that's really, really bad. I think it's all bad, but it's clearly a double standard.
Mm-hmm. I think he's been sort of on a slow cancellation anyways. Like, this is maybe the nail in his public coffin, but he got dropped by a big publisher who has like 70 newspapers earlier last year because he had this character who's black but identifies as white, and he was making some joke about like ESG scores, and got contacted by a publisher for like, I think it was 73 newspapers, and they're like, we're not going to run your comic anymore. I understand why this is like uncomfortable and shocking, and I don't think that he's right about the way he's interpreting all of this data. But I think that he has been sort of a growing target for cancel culture anyways.
You're right that about the way he's interpreting this data is wrong. He took a poll of 1,000 people, and then he said something about all of Americans and that people should run away from black people because of this 1,000-person poll that isn't even confirmed. I don't know if it's actually 72%.
Well, Rasmussen said that they poll online, so people elect to take it, and that it's nationwide. So theoretically, people come from a cross-section of society.
And theoretically, people could lie.
But people who answer
course.
A poll like that are the people who are going to answer a poll.
Yeah,
like that. I mean, that's the problem that the gun industry has the same thing. You
that's
can
one of the problems
design
with polling, right?
Yeah.
Like if you just put out one poll and you're like, and we've now decided it's indicative of something, but you would need to do more research to really get to the bottom of it.
And he says in the beginning, just so you know, this is all based on this one poll. I'm basing my entire belief structure on this poll now. And he starts claiming things as if the poll is right.
But it
like,
is,
dude, Scott, you brought it on yourself, man.
It is crazy that 26% of people would be like, no, it's not okay to be white.
It's not 26% of people. 26% of 1,000 people.
26% of black respondents.
Yeah, which were they even black? I mean, can you prove it? I can't. I don't know any. This poll.
Your question of trust is not a question of the argument. Ian.
Well, he makes a definitive claim based on this unverifiable poll, and even if it is verified, it's 1,000 people.
If this is true, that's what the poll says. Then therefore.
Then he extrapolates. Then therefore, the entire world is that way, and we must make decisions based on.
Well,
big mistake, Scott.
Ian, you're not actually answering what Hannah Claire was talking about.
In what way?
Hannah Claire was talking about how it's crazy that 26% of the respondents identifying this way said this thing. Now you can extrapolate whatever you want.
She said 26% of people. That was why I responded.
26%
it's 26 of black respondents said that they think it's not okay to be white. But
is it 1,000? Did you actually?
It's 1,000 for the whole poll.
Yeah, I thought it was like 130. I think that the 26%
is a smaller
like
population.
130 total respondents.
Right.
If I remember.
So Scott made a broad, sweeping claim about society based on 130.
He actually said he moved away because of things like this, and I'm kind of like, yo, that's.
But that means he already did it. He didn't. Right. He's not saying I'm moving. He already left. Right.
I've been of the belief that maybe Scott would come on the show one day. Like, he's been very vocal about critical race theory, and like he seems like he's got an awareness about things in society. But at the same time, I gotta say, Dilbert, I think, is one of the most boring cartoons ever made. Mm-hmm. I used to watch it in the 80s and 90s. I read it in the 90s in the paper, and it'd be like, oh, sure is hot out there today, huh? And Dilbert would be like, yeah, and he's drinking coffee. He's like, got donuts there? Yeah, and then that's the end of the comic, and you're like, what in the hell kind of dreary, boring ass shit.
I mean, you don't want to have him on because this comic's boring?
I liked Dilbert because my dad is a software engineer, and he is like
it is 1,000 American.
I mean, it was just it was
Yeah.
very similar. I just hope the Calvin and Hobbes guy stays out of this whole discussion.
That's true.
I love Calvin.
Bill Watterson is just hiding.
I'm still open,
Please don't get
Scott. If
Bill
you wanna
Watterson,
come, I don't know
don't
how
get
you guys
canceled.
feel about it. If Scott wants to come on, I don't know if you guys are even interested in talking to the guy, but I think, I don't like seeing people get canceled in general.
I just like more information, right? Like, I think the poll is sort of doing a disservice because there's no follow-up as far as we know. I mean, it's really easy to put some shocking stats on Twitter and to not dive into your point, right? It's only 1,000 people. We need more research to see intensely. It is strange that of 1,000 people, of the portion that are African-American, they would respond that like a quarter of them would say it's not okay to be white. That is unusual. It's not what I would expect.
It's unusual, but I think it suffers from the same problem that you have in, like I said, with gun topics. You'll get these polls that the anti-gun lobby puts out that says 90% of gun owners support universal background checks. Mm-hmm. And the question is always, okay, well, how did you phrase the question and who did you poll? I'm 100% confident that if I walked into my jiu-jitsu gym and I talked to every single black person who trains there, they would look at me like I was growing a second head if
Yeah.
I asked them this question.
And
I just it's like if you go outside and touch grass, get out into the real world, get away from these polls, like stop letting these polls run your life. I can empathize with the fact that, like, if that was really true, would your advice be valuable? I mean, maybe, but
Well, see, and I would wanna know-
Well, so
is
we
that
have-
really
we have-
the way to
we have-
resolve
we
that
have
issue?
the
Like,
polling data.
you're going to make it worse.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.